The acrid smell of oxidized metal and sweat clung to Thorne's skin as he knelt beside the malfunctioning excavator. 6 hours into his 12-hour shift, and already the third breakdown of the day. Wiped grime from his forehead, careful to keep his movements unhurried despite the overseer's impatient hovering. Human, the quota increases tomorrow. This machine needs to function at optimal capacity, Overseer Dravik said, his grayscaled skin flushing purple with annoyance. Thorne kept his eyes down. Yes, Overseer. The primary coupling is damaged. I'll need to requisition parts. You have 1 hour, Dravik hissed, before stalking away. When the Overseer was out of earshot, Jace, another human worker, slid over. 1 hour to replace a coupling. That should take 3. He's setting you up to fail. Else is new, Thorne muttered, working his screwdriver into the excavator's corroded innards. They've increased quotas 3 times this season. They're trying to work us to death before paying retirement benefits. Nexus 7 had once been a promising mining colony, with humans brought in for their engineering expertise. That was before the Hegemony War. 4 humans were classified as a violence-prone species and stripped of citizenship rights. Now they were little more than equipment operators and maintenance workers, living in segregated compounds under constant surveillance. Engineering inspection. The call echoed through the cavern. Workers straightened, tools hidden as a blue-skinned Azurian woman approached, flanked by 2 security drones. Thorne had seen her before Nisha Kale recently, assigned from the Central Engineering Corps. Unlike most Azurians, she didn't look at humans with disgust or fear, just professional detachment. This section is underperforming, she announced, consulting her datapad. I need to speak with the maintenance lead. Overseer Dravik pointed at Thorne, this one, though I recommend replacing him. Her electric blue eyes settled on Thorne. I'll make that determination. Show me the equipment failures, technician. As they walked to the excavator, Thorne braced himself for the usual dressing down. Instead, she lowered her voice once they were out of earshot. The coupling failures are systematic. Someone's sabotaging the equipment upstream. Thorne froze. That's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation. It's a fact. She handed him her datapad, display angled away from the security drones. Look at the metallurgical analysis. These aren't wearing out. They're being chemically compromised. The data confirmed her assessment. Thorne glanced up, suspicion warring. With curiosity. Why? Tell me. Because you're the only one attempting proper repairs instead of quick patches. She took back the datapad. And because I need someone who understands these machines? Why would an Azorian engineer need help from? A human technician? He asked, the bitterness in his voice unmistakable. Nisha's expression remained neutral, but her eyes softened slightly. Not all of us believe the propaganda, Technician Thorne. She raised her voice for the benefit of those watching. You have new parts arriving tomorrow? I expect efficiency improvements of at least 20%. As she walked away, Thorne noticed a small data chip had appeared among his tools. He palmed it discreetly, mind racing. Either this was the most elaborate trap he'd ever encountered, or something unprecedented was happening that night. In his cramped quarters, Thorne viewed the chip's contents. Schematics for equipment modifications, security patrol schedules, and a brief message. Tomorrow. Maintenance shaft. 1 to B. 0300 hours. Outside his window, the twin moons of Nexus 7 cast their pale light over the human compound, illuminating the high fences and automated sentry towers. For the first time in years, Thorne felt something dangerous stirring in his chest. Hope. Maintenance Shaft 1 to B was a forgotten artery in Nexus 7's complex network of tunnels, its entrance obscured by years of mineral deposits. Thorne arrived 5 minutes early, heart pounding against his ribs. The decision to come might cost him everything, but living as he had been hardly qualified as living at all. You weren't followed. Nisha's voice emerged from the shadows before she did, her blue skin almost luminescent in the dim emergency lighting. I've been avoiding surveillance since I was 12, Thorne replied. What's this about? Instead of answering, she led him deeper, into the tunnel network. They descended through sections that had been officially sealed for decades, finally emerging into a small chamber that had once been a storage facility. Equipment cases lined the walls, their contents hidden beneath. Protective tarps. The colonial administration has been lying to everyone, Nisha said, activating a portable light. Not just about humans, about everything. She pulled back one of the tarps, revealing what appeared to be ancient weapons and armor. Unlike the sleek, energy-based weapons favored by the hegemony, these were forged of metals and composite materials, designed for durability rather than aesthetics. "This is from the Human Defense Forces," Thorne whispered, running his fingers over a battle-scarred chest plate. "Before the restriction accords. My father was an archaeologist before the purges," Nisha explained. "He preserved what he could. These artifacts disprove the official narrative that humans were always laborers. They show you were equal soldiers, leaders, diplomats." Despite its damage, it felt balanced in his hands, as if designed specifically for him. A ceremonial spear, Nisha identified. According to records, these were carried by honor guards during peace negotiations. "Why show me this?" Thorne asked. Though the answer was forming in his mind. "The combat trials begin in 6 weeks," she replied. "For the first time, they're allowing human participants, though they expect none to qualify. It's meant as propaganda to reinforce the myth of human inferiority." Their eyes met in the dim light, a current of understanding passing between them. "You want me to enter?" he concluded. "I want you to win." Her voice was soft but certain. "Victor receives one request that cannot be denied by colonial law." Thorne considered the broken spear in his hands. "If I'm caught training with ancient weapons, we'll both be executed," she acknowledged. "But if we succeed, everything changes." In the weeks that followed, Thorne divided his life into careful segments. Grueling shifts in the mines, stolen hours of training in the abandoned tunnels, and increasingly precious moments with Nisha. What began as instructor and student evolved into something neither had anticipated. "Your form is improving," she noted one night, circling him as he moved through combat stances with the broken spear. "But you telegraph your left attacks." "Show me," he challenged. She stepped behind him, hands guiding his arms through the proper motion. The proximity sent warmth through his chest that had nothing to do with exertion. When he turned, her face was inches from his. "This is dangerous," she whispered, but didn't pull away. "The training or this?" he asked. "Both?" Their first kiss was tentative, bridging worlds that had been deliberately separated. Their second left no doubt that whatever barriers society had erected between their species, their hearts recognized. No such divisions. Later, as they lay together on a makeshift pallet, Nisha traced the scars that mapped Thorne's back testament to years under overseer discipline. "When the trials come," she murmured, "they'll underestimate you. Use that. And if I fail?" he asked. She pressed her forehead to his. "Then we find another way. But we don't stop." In the glow of their portable light, the broken spear caught Thorne's eye, once a symbol of diplomatic protection, now transformed into a weapon of defiance. Like him. Like them. Hope was no longer dangerous. It was necessary. The qualification rounds for the combat trials were held in a repurposed mining pit, where overseers could entertain themselves watching laborers fight for extra rations or minor privileges. Thorne registered under a false identification code, one of dozens of humans seeking any escape from the crushing monotony of their existence. "Participant 37, the automated system announced. "Versus Kraz, mining sector champion." Kraz was a Vuldarian, twice Thorne's size, with reinforced exoskeletal plating across his shoulders and back. He entered the circle, carrying a mining pick modified into a brutal weapon. Human Kraz growled, "I'll try not to damage you too badly. You're worth more to me functional." Thorne said nothing, gripping his weapon, a length of pipe that concealed the broken spear within. In the stands, Nisha sat among other engineers, her expression professionally detached despite her racing heart. The fight lasted exactly 12 seconds. Kraz charged forward, expecting to overwhelm the smaller human with brute force. Thorne sidestepped, hooked the Vuldarian's ankle with his pipe, and used the alien's momentum to send him sprawling face first into the dust. Before Kraz could recover, Thorn placed his boot precisely on the base of the alien's neck, a pressure point Nisha had identified during their training. "Yield," Thorn suggested quietly. The stunned silence that followed his victory was broken only by the automated system. Participant 37 advances. Word spread quickly through the labor sectors. A human advancing past the first round was unprecedented. By evening, Thorn returned to his quarters to find a small package containing a strip of red cloth, a secret gesture of solidarity from the kitchen workers. "It's working," Nisha whispered when they met that night. "People are watching, questioning. Not just humans," Thorn noted. "After today's matches, a Trescian medic slipped me pain suppressants. Said her grandmother told stories about human Trescian medical collaborations before the Accords. Their resistance was growing. Akron, a Siladine technician who maintained the arena's systems, offered to manipulate the match scheduling. Vor, a disgraced hegemony officer working as a security consultant, provided intelligence on competitor weaknesses. Most surprising was Telex, a Veldarian like Kraz, who approached Thorn after witnessing his victory. My people were craftsmen. Before the hegemony made us miners and fighters, Telex explained, presenting Thorn with a reinforced grip for his broken spear. I still remember the old ways. As the qualifying rounds continued, Thorn fought with calculated restraint, winning decisively, but never revealing the full extent of his training. Each victory brought new allies, small acts of defiance blooming. Throughout Nexus 7 like flowers through concrete, but success brought dangers. Overseer Dravix intensified surveillance on the human sectors. Security scans doubled. Nisha found herself assigned to a review committee, her access to engineering systems restricted. They suspect something, she told Thorn during a stolen moment. In the maintenance tunnels, not the full plan, but enough to be concerned about human unrest. Thorn pulled her close, inhaling the faint scent of the mineral oils she used in her work. Then we accelerate. The semifinal rounds begin tomorrow. The competition will be different, she warned. Professional fighters, not laborers, and director. Vane always attends the semifinals personally. Director Yavik, Vane architect of the modern labor. System and rumored executioner of the last human. Diplomats during the peace negotiations that had ended in subjugation instead of alliance. Good, Thorn said, his voice hardening. I want him to see. That night, as Nexus 7 shifted to its night cycle, unlikely conspirators gathered in the abandoned storage chamber, a human fighter, an Azurian engineer, a Siladine technician, a disgraced hegemony officer, and a Valdarian craftsman. 5 species united by a shared vision of something the hegemony had worked for generations to prevent equality. Tomorrow, Thorn said, looking at each of them, we show them who we really are. The semi-final arena differed dramatically from the mining pit. Located in the colony's administrative sector, it featured ceremonial architecture and advanced shielding to protect spectators from combat energies. Thorn entered through the participants' tunnel, the broken spear now openly carried, its jagged end wrapped in the red cloth gifted by the kitchen workers. In the engineering booth, Nisha monitored systems alongside other technical staff, her fingers dancing across interfaces that would subtly assist their plan. In the stands, scattered throughout the crowd, their allies waited for signals. Director Vane occupied the central observation platform, surrounded by hegemony officials and colonial administrators. His scaled face remained impassive as the competitors were announced, though his inner eyelid flickered briefly when Thorn's name appeared on the roster. Human semifinalist, he remarked to his aide. How ... quaint. Thorn's opponent was Krell, a hegemony combat specialist with neural-enhanced reflexes and a shock staff that crackled with contained energy. As they circled each other in the arena's center, Krell's mouth curled into a predatory smile. Requested this match specifically, he hissed. My grandfather died in the human rebellions. History remembers differently, Thorn replied, voice pitched to Carrie. Your grandfather died negotiating peace, betrayed by his own command. The accusation, so publicly stated, caused a ripple through the crowd. Krell's eyes widened, then narrowed with rage. He attacked with precision, born of years of training, his shock staff a blur of lethal energy. Thorn met the assault with movements that should have been impossible for a mining technician, parrying, redirecting, countering with his own strikes. The broken spear, seemingly primitive, moved with purpose in his hands, where the shock staff touched it, instead of conducting energy as expected. The ancient metal absorbed and dissipated the charge. In the engineering booth, Nisha's hands trembled slightly as she implemented subtle system adjustments. The arena's display screens flickered momentarily, then began showing historical footage Ekron had hidden in the system's archival nodes. Humans and hegemony species working together before the Accords, collaborative scientific achievements, diplomatic ceremonies. "What is this?" Director Vane demanded, rising from his seat. On the arena floor, Thorn and Krell fought with increasing intensity. Blood flowed from a cut above Thorn's eye. Krell favored his right leg where the broken spear had found a weakness in his armor. The crowd, initially excited by the violence, grew silent as they watched. Just the fight, but the history unfolding on the screens around them. "Security breach in progress," announced the system. "Historical archive corruption detected." "Not corruption," Thorn called out, his voice amplified by Ekron's manipulation of the arena's acoustic systems. "Restoration." With a move that combined Nisha's technical knowledge and Telex's craftsmanship, Thorn twisted his broken spear. The blade separated from the shaft, connected by a concealed filament. With a whipping motion, he entangled Krell's legs, sending the hegemony fighter crashing to the ground in one fluid movement. Thorn stood over his opponent, the spear's blade poised above his throat. "Yield," he said, loud enough for all to hear. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Before Krell rasped, "I yield." The arena erupted not in the expected jeers at a hegemony defeat, but in confused murmurs as workers and citizens alike processed what they were seeing, both in the arena and on the screens around them. Director Vane's voice cut through the chaos. "Arrest the human. This display is sedition." But as security forces moved toward the arena floor, they found their path blocked, not by organized resistance, but by the crowd itself, colonial citizens and workers unwilling to make way, compelled by what they had witnessed to simply ... hesitate. In that moment of hesitation, everything changed. The final round of the combat trials was traditionally a ceremonial affair held in the grand arena with the colonial governor in attendance. This year, tension hung in the air like an electrical storm. Security had been tripled. Worker sectors were under lockdown, yet the arena was filled beyond capacity. Citizens from every species and class drawn by rumors of the human, who fought with ancient weapons and spoke forbidden truths. In the preparation chamber beneath the arena, Thorn sat, alone, focusing his breathing as Nisha had taught him. The door slid open, and she entered. Her engineer's uniform exchanged for formal attire befitting her sudden promotion to the governor's technical advisory staff, a transparent attempt to separate her from the human sectors after the semi-final incident. "They're scared," she said without preamble. "Vane has positioned snipers at the upper levels." Thorn nodded, unsurprised. "And our friends?" "In position. Ekron has control of the arena systems. Vor identified the security weak points. Telex and his craftsmen have distributed the artifacts to key locations." She paused, reaching out to touch his face. "This was never just about winning." "No," he agreed, covering her hand with his. "It was about remembering." When they kissed, it held the weight of possibility, not just for them, but for Nexus 7. For a future where artificial divisions might finally begin to heal. The summons came. And Thorn entered the arena to a sound he hadn't anticipated. Applause. Not universal, but scattered throughout the stands. Growing in volume despite security officers' attempts to silence it, his opponent was Captain Sendar, the governor's champion, undefeated in 7 years of combat trials. Sendar's bioengineered frame towered over Thorn, his ceremonial armor incorporating technologies from a dozen worlds. In his hands, he carried a weapon that made Thorn's heart stature a complete ceremonial spear, identical to his own before it was broken. "Honor guard." "Issue," Sendar announced, his amplified voice echoing across the arena. From the last peace conference, Fitting that I should end this farce with it. Governor Thale rose from her observation platform, raising her hands for silence. This final match will determine this cycle's champion, who may claim the traditional boon, her eyes fixed on Thorn. Though some requests may be deemed ... unconstitutional, the warning was clear. Even if he won, system would find ways to deny him. As the signal to begin sounded, Thorn didn't attack. Instead, he stepped forward and planted his broken spear in the arena floor. "Before we fight," he called out, his voice carried by Ekron's carefully calibrated systems, "I would ask my opponent one question." Sendar hesitated, then nodded his acceptance, intrigued despite himself. "Your spear," Thorn said, pointing. "Do you know whose blood stains its blade?" The champion glanced down, confusion crossing his features. "It bears no stains, because it was cleaned," Thorn replied, "unlike mine." Throughout the arena, on every display screen, images appeared, Dany chant recordings salvaged from niches. Father's collection. They showed the peace conference, the human delegation, led by Commander Orlon, the ceremonial exchange of spears as a gesture of trust. Then, the betrayal Governor Thale's predecessor, driving that same ceremonial spear through Orlon's chest while his honor guard was restrained. Gasps echoed through the stands. In the governor's box, Thale rose in fury, signaling to security forces who began moving toward the arena controls. They were too late. Throughout the complex, in worker dormitories and citizen habitation units, in administrative offices and security stations, the same footage played on every available screen. Simultaneously, hidden caches of artifacts were revealed, evidence of the shared history that had been systematically erased. On the arena floor, Sendar stared at his weapon, then at Thorn. The champion's expression shifted from confidence to uncertainty to something Thorn hadn't dared hope for: recognition. Slowly, deliberately, Sendar lowered his spear and drove it into the arena floor beside Thorn's. "I will not fight today," the champion announced. "Not for this." Security forces swarmed the arena but found themselves facing not just Thorn and Sendar, but citizens pouring from the stands, workers emerging from access tunnels, species that had been set against each other for generations. Standing together in growing numbers, Nisha fought through the crowd to reach Thorn's side, her hand finding his amid the chaos. "What happens now?" she asked as around them, the carefully maintained order of Nexus 7 began to transform. Thorn looked at the broken spear, symbol of a past that had been hidden, now unearthed to forge a different future. He looked at Nisha, whose courage had helped ignite this moment. He looked at the faces around them: human, Azorian, Valdarian, Siladine, Geminial, witnessing the first breaths of something new. "Now," he said, "we begin again." In the days that followed, Nexus 7 experienced not the bloody revolution the hegemony had always feared, but something more profound: a peaceful reckoning with truth. Work stoppages spread across the colony. Citizens demanded investigations. Archived records were unsealed. Governor Thale eventually addressed the colony, not from her protected compound, but from the same arena where everything had changed, flanked not by security, but by a council that included representatives from every species, including a human technician and an Azurian engineer standing side by side. As for the broken spear that had started it all, it found a new home in the colony's central plaza, joined by its unbroken twin, both mounted in a memorial that bore a simple inscription: "Remember what was, imagine what could be." The message was signed in the languages of all species who called Nexus 7 home, no longer divided by artificial hierarchies, but united in the most revolutionary act possible: truth.